Yeah, but he's skinny, so it's like so it's like a reverse thing. He's like, I'm hot, man. I'm hot. Like you skinny. So what makes you decide what topics you're going to cover on your podcast?
I just have random thoughts and I'm like, I want to talk about that. I'll be driving and I'll see something happen and I'm like, you'll see something happen or you'll see somebody doing something, hear somebody say something, and then a domino effect of thoughts start to roll. And I'll be like, hey Siri, put this in my notepad. Da 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 da. I want to talk about this. And I have a notepad of maybe 200 topics that just thoughts, they have to go somewhere because one of those people I like to be inside my head, my therapist is like, you need to not be in your head so much, go inside your body. And I'm like, but I like being in my head. Yeah, I sit there. But what happens is when you're in your head a lot, it takes you away from being present with people. So I can be in a crowded room of people and just be in the corner, like just in my own head, having my own thoughts.
I understand that. I many times people be like, man, what's going on? I'm like, oh man, I was totally thinking about like the Cubs in 1985. Like, I'm talking about, and I'm at somewhere, it's a concert, and they're like, dude, what are you thinking about? And I'm thinking about has nothing to do with whatever's going on there. Like,
exactly. So I just started to put that on digital paper, and I'll go through them and pick and choose to either make it a topic or make it like something quick I'll say on social media, or people contact me. People, oh, I have this story. We should talk about it. And I'll be like, no, this is a little bit too wild. I still think about my son. Yeah. Or yeah, let's do it.
So it's funny that you said that. Like one of your last episodes was what I learned from cheating.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh snap, this is interesting here.
Yeah.
But it didn't go the way I thought it was gonna go, which was cool. I thought it was gonna go like this way, but it went to another way that was cool. So I was like, all right, I get this conversation now, because it definitely, I thought it was going there.
Yeah. So how cheating helped me grow is kind of the concept, and this is how the podcast is going to go into season 4. We just wrapped season 3, and we go back into production in a few months. And this is how I like to see the world. Yes, this is something that's taboo. Yes, this is something that's controversial. Yes, this might not be the right thing to do, but it just so happens that it occurred. So how do we use it? So instead of me saying, I'm ashamed, I cheated before, or you cheated, you should be ashamed. It happened. It's gone. How did we grow from it? What did we learn from it? So that's basically what the conversation was about. But my guest, Tracy Khan, we were talking, before about her cheating experience. But then after a while, she was like, you know what, Nola? I don't want to go in that direction with my story anymore because I'm in a really good place now. I don't want to dwell on it. And when you're talking about cheating, you're not just talking about you. Sometimes you have to involve another person. Either you did it to them or they did it to you. And she was like, yeah, I want to respect that person. And then within no time, I figured out a different way to maneuver that conversation. And that's what you ended up experiencing.
Yeah, no, it was a delightful maneuver on that. Another one that I really liked was the one with with the therapist, conversation with a therapist, where she was discussing how it needs to be. You need to be able to have like dialogue and understand your therapist of like, okay, these some things we're gonna go through and we're gonna go back and forth on. And you got to be comfortable with letting them know, like, well, this ain't working out, and we need to break up, as well as a therapist and patient per se, And that's something I think people don't think about when they do therapy, or they get discouraged from therapy. Of like, after I get this one, I'm locked into, Dr. Talbert, and it's don't have to necessarily be like that. It's test them out.
Yeah, exactly. Ask a therapist. That was our number 3 most listened to or viewed. Wow. Because a lot of people are interested in therapy, but they kind of have this idea of what it's going to be like. They think they're probably going to be judged. You know, they think they're going to have to go in there and tell all their deepest, darkest secrets, and they're afraid of that. Or when you hear people say, oh, therapy doesn't work for me. Did you do what was recommended? Did you do the work? Or are you with the right therapist? So yeah, she did recommend, because on that episode, viewers and listeners sent me questions to ask her. And one of the questions were, you know, I'm not comfortable with my therapist. What do I do? And she's like, you can leave, you know, you can break up with your therapist. You can say, hey, for whatever reason, this is not working. Or you don't even have to give a reason. But it would be professional. It would be polite to say something as opposed to just ghosting.
Yeah, because I mean that's just a cool decorum thing with that. What should we be looking forward to in season 4 from the show?
So season 4 is way more storytelling and learning about just incredible things people have experienced. I already have a couple of guests lined up. For instance, one person will be talking about her experiencing being trafficked and being,
Oh, wow. Oh man, that's
she went through. She ended up in Las Vegas, and she wants to talk about how she walked out of that and where she's at now and how it helped her grow. So super important for me because I've figured this out and I want to share it with people. Just because you've had a wild life, just because you've gone through things, because trust me, baby, I've gone through some things, and I have made it to the other side, not because I'm so-called strong. It's because I've decided that I want to learn from it. I'm going to use this thing instead of having it use me. So season 4 is really about, yeah, we've gone through some things. So what? What happened? If you have a problem with it, then that's yours, right? But over here, we're going to use those challenges and those obstacles to help us grow.
Ooh, man, the sex trafficking. Woo, that's a heavy one because I think that's something that, and I always think about. Like, I was having a conversation with one of my buddies the other day. I was like, how much crime that we, especially as us younger kids that grew up in the 80s and 90s, that was around us that we did not even realize at all. And I'm talking about even adults didn't even realize what was going on. Like, how long has sex trafficking been going on? We're understanding that now in these new era, but of course it's had to be going on in the 80s and 90s and 70s and 2000s. How much of that was going on around us and we did not even peep game to it?
Yeah, it's always been around. And one thing that I want to say is a lot of times when we hear sex trafficking, we automatically assume that the woman that's in it, she's probably kidnapped, stolen, coerced. There are women who agree to it. So if you have a prostitute that's coming from one area to another, it's technically the same thing. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So that's one thing. I'm not saying, hey, there's a better side of it or anything like that. And I'm saying that to say that there were times when women wanting a better life would go from one area to another or all over the place to make that money. So it's always been around. But it's interesting that you mentioned that because my mother owns a restaurant in Brooklyn. And one day a production team came into the restaurant and they're like, guys, we're shooting a movie and we want to use your location. Can we use your location to have people come in, sign contracts? We're going to compensate you. And we didn't know what the movie was about, even though there was so much talk. So I pulled one of the producers to the side. What is the movie about? She said, it's about sex trafficking in Guyana. And I was so thrown aback because I didn't even know it's naive to think that it doesn't exist there, right? It's naive. I was like, what? What are we talking about? Eventually, over time, I ended up learning that sex trafficking in Guyana is huge. We're located, for the people who don't know, directly between Brazil, Suriname, and Venezuela. And those women don't look like the women who live in Guyana.